Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto has a god sealed in him, part 5. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. Hokage's office after trial. Dog entered the office to see the Sandaime once again battling his greatest nemesis, paperwork. The events of the day had caused quite a backlog, and he knew he would be there for several more hours. Hiruzen looked up to see Dog. He knew what this was about, and was hoping he would not make a big deal out of it. With a quick motion, the other Anbu left the office, and he went through some hand signs for a barrier. When the room was secure, Dog spoke. Is he really a wolf? Dog had decided to come right out and ask. With a sigh, Hiruzen said, Kakashi, you may remove your mask. Dog removed his mask to reveal a half-covered face, and forehead protector over his left eye. Now speak plainly about what you wish to know. His tone told Kakashi he wanted no misunderstanding between the two of them, and wanted it all out in the open. Is Naruto really a wolf? Seeing that the Hokage didn't even flinch or attempt to mislead him was all the answer he needed. But Hiruzen answered anyway. Yes, he is. Why? Because he was the one who killed those shunins to stop them. Turns out your second theory was correct, and I needed to protect him, and at the same time get him into the T&I building without arousing suspicions. I don't even know how he has done some of the things he has. This way it will be easier to protect him from the council, and use his talents for the good of the village. What if he is called to go on a mission? He can't fake his way through a mission without anybody noticing he is not really Anbu material. Kakashi expressed concern, as he tried to figure out a way to protect his sensei's son. I have designated him as a non-combat agent, as of right now. Considering his medical and interrogation skills, I don't think anyone will request a mission so soon. I can always deny their requests too, as he is a special Anbu, and not a normal agent. Hiruzen tried to reassure him. But if you denied them a perfectly acceptable mission for his skill set, it will raise suspicions. How will he defend himself if that mission has an unexpected combat element? Kakashi really did have a good point. Kakashi, I understand your concern, but perhaps you should ask yourself a question. If Naruto took down 3 chunins with, in your own words, almost surgical precision when he was 10, do you really believe he can't take care of himself? This caught Kakashi off guard. He hadn't even considered that Naruto was hiding his strength. He had watched him at the academy a few times, and he seemed to be one of the weaker ones. Now having perspective, he began to wonder exactly how much Naruto hid. You always say look underneath the underneath, and yet have ignored your own advice when it comes to Naruto-kun. He made the decision to trust his Hokage, and question him no further. Leaving the office shortly after, he decided he would follow Naruto a little to get a better idea of his strength. Outside Konoha 3 days later early morning. The sun was slowly rising behind 2 figures approaching the west gate of the village hidden in the leaves. One was about 5'6" with dark blue hair and pale skin. The other was just under 5 and had spiky blonde hair. Naruto had left the village almost immediately after the Hyuga runner had informed Hinata that she would not be allowed back into the clan. It had taken everything Naruto had not to march over to the Hyuga clan and demand an answer from Hiashi before the runner, who happened to be a branch member after the original main family member, was told what would most likely happen if he went himself. Explained how the vote worked with elders gone, and that Hiashi and Hanabi had been outvoted on the issue. Naruto was just glad he had been informed what time the message was sent in order to be there for Hinata when she got the news. After she had cried out everything she had, Naruto told her he was going to go and bring her mom back to the village. It cheered her up a little to know she would see her again, but she would be unable to join her at the clan home, and that made her cry again. Naruto had left a few clones to guard her, and asked Anko to look in on her when she was off. As they approached the gate, the guards were stunned to see who was approaching. The Eternal, Izumo, and Kotetsu were stunned to see their old teammate's older sister alive. Hitomi-sama, is it really you? Kotetsu asked. It has been a long time since Kotetsu-san. I am happy to see you still recognize me. The now identified Hitomi Hyuga answered. But, how? We went to your funeral. Izumo finally found his voice. You will find out about that soon enough, but right now I want to get home to see my daughters. She said with a bit of an edge in her voice. Yeah, about that Naruto started before Hitomi looked at him with a fierce gaze. What about Naruto-kun? Naruto had been looking for a way to bring it up, but it had never presented itself until now. He couldn't bring himself to tell her. I will let Hiashi-sama tell you. He felt bad, but she was his wife, and it was technically his own doing. Naruto was supposed to deliver a letter to her, but things ended up happening right away, and, as such, Naruto had only told her it was safe to return to the village, and that the Elder Council had been tried and found guilty. He might have given her the letter anyway if he hadn't left it in his other pants at home. She decided to let it slip. He seemed worried about something, but she was too happy to think about that now. They quickly made their way to the Hyuga compound, and Naruto excused himself saying he had to be somewhere, and that he would see her later. She still couldn't get over how Hiashi had got Naruto to run messages back and forth for him, but she was glad to see that he was finally getting some help. Hiashi had been paying him to be a secret mail service between the two, with the Hokage's approval. He even bought Naruto's weapons for him in secret in order for him not to be overcharged. Then he would deliver them to him when they would meet to exchange the secret mail. The Hyuga guards looked like they had seen a ghost. Hitomi Hyuga, the Hyuga clan matriarch, was walking towards them very much alive and healthy. They had been told a special visitor would be coming today, but would have never guessed that it would be her. She breezed past them after a quick formal greeting, and made her way towards the council chambers, where Naruto told her they would be waiting. She hesitated at the door for a second before pushing it open, and getting stunned gasps from all except Hiashi. Hyuga council chamber 10 minutes earlier. The other main branch family was getting restless. They had been sitting there for 15 minutes, and so far, no one had shown up. They were told that all main members were to attend a meeting to receive a special guest. They had expected that the guests had already arrived, but after 15 minutes they were quickly becoming annoyed. What is the meaning of this, Hiashi-san? I thought you said we were to receive a special guest, but no one has arrived. Who could possibly be important enough to keep the entire main branch of the Hyuga waiting? Spoke to one of his aunt's children. Hiashi was not happy that he was not addressed as the head of the clan. The other main family had been quite annoying the last 3 days, acting like they should be running the clan, even using the branch members' seals more to try and establish a power base of some kind. Fools thought Hiashi, you can't force loyalty through pain and expect to have power. A lesson he had learned the hard way and had been undoing for the last 10 years. We will wait for our guests until they arrive. If they were delayed more than a few more minutes I would have been notified. Hiashi went back to waiting next to Hanabi. It was still quite sad that her big sister was not there. When they heard the door to the chambers slide open, Hitomi Hyuga stood there. The long-dead matriarch of the Hyuga clan. Hitomi's eyes scanned the room, finding Hiashi and Hanabi sitting near the center of the tables. Her face became confused when she did not see Hinata. Seeing her face, Hiashi almost panicked. Naruto had left him to fend for himself. Not that he could blame him, but it would have been nice for a heads up. Hanabi was in shock seeing her mother walk in. It had been 2 years since she had died, and Hanabi missed her terribly. With tears in her eyes she asked, "Ka-chan, is that really you?" "Yes dear, I am sorry I had to be gone, but I am back now, and won't leave you again," Hitomi told her youngest, as she ran into her mother's arms crying. "Does this mean Ni-chan can come home too?" This confused Hitomi, but at the same time answered her question, as to why Hinata was absent. She looked to Hiashi for an explanation. "Please sit, Hitomi-chan, this is a long story. And no one is leaving until everything has been aired." Hiashi said the second part to the other main family members who looked like they were ready to run, as soon as Hitomi entered the room. He went on to tell her all that she had missed. The training being taken from him. The elders' plot to essentially sell Hinata for political influence, branding her, and banishing her to protect her from them, and their subsequent attack on her to try and carry out their plan anyway. He skipped the part about her seal being removed, as that would need to happen with just the two of them. Not even Hanabi was allowed to know. He finished with his attempt to unbanish her, and how he and Hanabi had been outvoted by the others in that room, making it permanent. When Hiashi finished, Hitomi was mad at him, but understood some of his actions, but wasn't sure she was ever going to forgive him for branding their oldest daughter. She wasn't even sure she could remain his wife after that, but she would discuss that with him later. For now, she was simply giving the other main family the most intense glare any of them have ever seen. She had been a supporter of them against her husband sometimes. Mainly when it came to showing that all members could live free of a seal, and they wouldn't be any more danger than if they had a seal, and it had worked great until now. "I will never forgive you for this. After all the times I defended you, you vote to permanently remove my oldest daughter from the clan. Don't expect me to help any of you ever again. Also, to make sure we continue to grow stronger, as a clan I will personally be training each and every one of you, until I believe you are worthy of the Hyuga name." With that said, she took Hanabi to her bed, as she had fallen asleep from crying, and went to Hiashi's study to discuss whether or not she could ever forgive him. The other main branch just paled. If she was as good as she used to be, they would be in for many painful training sessions in the future. She arrived in his study to see him pouring 2 cups of tea, and looking like he was ready to die. She sat down, and went to speak before he held up his hand to stop her. "I know what you are going to say, and you're right. I am the worst father ever. I couldn't even protect my own children. I don't expect you to forgive me, as I will never be able to forgive myself. But I know this. Her seal was removed, and a fake one put in its place until she is able to defend herself." Hitomi's eyes went wide. He had found someone that could remove her seal, and place a fake one on her instead. "Before you ask, I will say that the same person who saved you, removed her seal, and is currently watching over her. He will be helping her train, and if we are lucky we'll be able to give her true happiness someday. If you want to leave I will understand." I just wanted you to know that she is not going to be cursed to a life of servitude like the other branch members, and she will be free from kidnap attempts because of the appearance of the seal. With that he finished, and waited for the inevitable backlash that would come from Hitomi. Was there truly no other way? She asked. He hadn't been expecting it, and took a moment to respond. I am afraid so. She was being poisoned in the same way you were to make her seem weak. The elder's treachery ran deeper than I could have guessed. Hitomi was at a loss for words. She never dreamed they would go that far for control of the clan. After sitting in silence for a few minutes, she had decided what she would do. Hiyashi, I forgive you. Just let me go see her. He nodded, and went to get Hanabi to go and visit Hinata. 1 year later with Naruto. Naruto had just left Hinata at her door, as he went down the hall to think over the events of last year. Hinata's mother had come that night, and it was a tearful reunion. Hitomi had told how proud she was for keeping her word, and told her she would help her in any way she could. Hinata had asked for the scrolls on the gentle fist, but this was sadly not something her mother could do. Hinata had been sad until later when Naruto offered to teach her. After a rather lengthy explanation of how he knew, Hinata was almost overjoyed. She had been making great progress too. Naruto had been slowly modifying the version he taught her, making it so it was more in tune with her natural flexibility and her water chakra nature. He had tested it after watching her for the first week, and it just seemed wrong. Enko had also taken a liking to the former airs, helping her include some of her snake style into the new gentle fist she was making that she called the gentle step. Naruto had told her not to tell anyone, not even her parents. He was teaching her. He didn't want them to be any more thankful than they already were. Hitomi had learned all that he had done, and wanted to buy him and Hinata a house to live in, but Naruto said that might just cause them more problems than anything else. Regardless of saying he didn't need thanks, he found that any time he was running out of training supplies or wore out his clothes, a new one magically appeared in his apartment, with no sign of how they got there. He decided that he would accept them, as long as it didn't go over the top. His training was truly going well also. He estimated he could take on pretty much any special jouning with his seals on, and win. His seals were currently at 30 for the gravity seal, and 21 for the resistance seal. This meant his muscles were forced to work like he weighed approximately 4,000 lbs. His resistance seal was almost halfway to max, meaning it was almost like trying to move while being frozen under a glacier. He was very nearly even with Anko with his seals on, and she was in truth closer to elite Jonin than she was to special, but couldn't get past the chakra capacity and political roadblocks. He had grown to almost 5'4" with Hinata just barely breaking 5. Their training had been interesting at times with Hinata and Anko both trying to claim Naruto's attention. They both knew the other one liked him, but no matter what they did, he wouldn't show preference to one or the other. Naruto and Hinata would go to the library to read. Naruto had to use a henge, but made up for it with shadow clones. He taught Hinata the shadow clone 6 months after he had applied a semi-permanent chakra absorption seal that worked much the same way as his. It would take half her chakra every day, but didn't force it back into her coils at night. It worked on the principle that draining your chakra constantly would build up your reserves. Well, it worked, it was not as effective as Naruto's. The first few weeks were hard, but her reserves now allowed her to make 2 shadow clones and still function, albeit somewhat tired. They spent the days they weren't training to go to the library and read up on anything that might be of use. Naruto had also taught her 2 waters that he knew from his mom's knowledge, and helped her with elemental chakra control exercises to make them more effective. They had also found a small lightning affinity that Anko was trying to help her weave into her gentle step along with water. Water to lock up joints, and lightning to kill if necessary. The results so far were rather mixed. School had been even more interesting. Flashback. After the break in the academy session for winter, Hanabi had joined their class. It was only made more awkward when the first roll call was taken. Hinata and Naruto had taken their seats in the back when Hanabi came in, and went and sat next to Hinata. "Hey Ni-chan, guess what?" Hinata just looked at her little sister confused. "I got Tusan and Ka-chan to move me up to your class so I can see you every day." This made Hinata smile and hug her little sister. She was glad to be able to see her again. The other main house, rather than trying to make up, had decided to take things even further. They made sure Hinata was not allowed to enter the compound, and had even tried to secretly activate her seal when she was alone, as payback for the painful training sessions that her mother was putting them through. It only happened a few times afterward that whenever someone tried, she didn't fall over in pain like they expected, but instead immediately turned in their direction and activated her Byakugan. She never told her parents, who had been the ones to try it, only that it happened. Hitomi had to restrain Hiyashi from going after them and killing them. The Hyuga clan was still in turmoil, and she still wanted to bring her daughter home. So, she decided to up their training. She had trained herself the entire 2 years she was away, and could even give Hiyashi a run for his money now. Iruka walked in and began the roll. When he got to Hanabi, everybody looked. "Hanabi Hyuga." "Here," she replied. Seeing the questioning looks, Iruka explained. Hanabi-san has joined our class this year. I expect you all to treat her as you would any other member of the class. He then continued. Hinata. Dear, she replied in a seemingly good mood. He tried to continue until Sakura, being the person she is, asked why did you not call her last name. He in all the years had never failed to do both names on roll call. I called it, as her name is currently registered. This caused all the students to look to Hinata for an answer. She had hoped to avoid this, but her mother told her it would happen. She slowly unwrapped the lavender bandana she had tied around her forehead, revealing the caged bird seal for the class to see. I am no longer Hinata Hyuga. I was banished from my clan. I am now just Hinata. She said, barely keeping her voice from breaking, and wrapping her bandana back around her forehead. Naruto wrapped her in a hug, consoling her. None of her classmates spoke about it after that. They all knew what it meant to be banished from a clan, and it was not something anyone would want to talk about. Hanabi barely controlled her tears, as she embraced her sister along with Naruto. She still had a hard time with the whole thing, whereas Hinata had almost come to accept it. To be honest, it wasn't as bad as she had thought. She wished she could wake up to her mother's cooking and morning greetings, but she saw her almost every day when she brought Hanabi to school and picked her up. Hiyashi and Hitomi made a habit out of eating at Hinata's at least twice a week. Naruto was almost always there, as was Anko. Then flashback. Naruto had told her about his status as wolf, figuring that if she was ever asked about how her mother had survived, she needed to know the proper cover story. Anko was also told, as she had been there when he explained everything to Hinata that day in the Hokage's office. After he had showered and changed into some more comfortable clothes from Hinata's parents, he began making dinner, seeing as Hinata and Anko were eating at his place tonight. As he was preparing the meal, Kurama made his presence known. Kit, we need to talk. What's up, Kurama? Thought Naruto back to the fox. You need to get permission to leave the village for a few months. Hearing this from Kurama almost made Naruto drop the pan he was holding. Why do I need to leave the village, and for how long? Naruto asked, a little nervous. He had never left the village before, and didn't want to leave Hinata or Anko. You will need to leave for at least 6 months, maybe longer. It just depends on how long it takes to complete the training I have planned. And what training would this be? It's time you started to learn to control my chakra, and you can't do that here in the village. Just think of what happened when you flared just a little of my chakra to save your young vixen. Now imagine if you were doing that only with 100 or 1000 times as much chakra. They would have you detained before you even got started. Not to mention you need to be away from all people in case you lose control, and we have to just let the chakra work itself out. Okay, I guess you make a good point. I will go talk to Gigi. Maybe he has a mission I can do, and we can get paid at the same time. Quickly making a shadow clone to finish the food while he quickly made his way to the tower. Hokage Tower. Garrison was busy fighting one of his most invincible opponents. Paperwork. He just didn't seem to understand how Minato had done his work so fast. Sure, he was called the Yellow Flash because he was fast, and his blonde hair combined with his Eurasian, but how that transferred over to paperwork he had yet to figure out. He was about to just burn it all when a knock came at the door. Looking up, enter. He was pleasantly surprised when it was Naruto who showed up. He always enjoyed his visits from the boy. This, however, he would soon discover would have some serious consequences later on. To whom do I owe this visit to Naruto-kun? He asked in a jovial tone. Naruto only responded with a look that told him it was a serious meeting. After the Anbu had left, he dismissed the Anbu. He was getting ready to seal the room when Naruto beat him to it. Going through about 15 hand seals, he called out, hidden art. Void of secrets. The entire room changed. The windows blacked out and seemed to disappear. The door was simply gone, replaced by a black void. Naruto-kun, where did you learn this technique? This was known only to your mother. Naruto just smiled, scratched the back of his head, and said, well, I have been studying a lot on seals, and I decided to take a look in their house to see if there was anything to help me. I found this, and a few more advanced books on sealing. Naruto's lie was so perfect that Hiruzen didn't even question it. So, what is it you came here to speak about? I assume it has to be very important to go to this level of secrecy. Well, I need your permission to leave the village for a little while, and I was hoping that maybe you had a mission that Wolf could do to keep him out of town too. This brought Sarutobi up short. Why did Naruto want out of the village all of a sudden? Why do you want to leave the village, Naruto? Naruto had expected this. Gigi, I need to be out of the village to train to use the Kyuubi's chakra. This had alarm bells going off in Hiruzen's mind. Why now of all times? He already knew that the fox was not pure evil, but he still didn't trust it. All living things wanted their freedom, and this was no exception. He worried the fox wanted to kill Naruto. Why do you want to do this now? Why not wait until I can have someone go with you in case the fox tries to escape? Hiruzen was worried that Naruto was being tricked. Naruto didn't see a way around it, so he prepared to tell him a little more of the truth he had been denying him for the past 8 years. Gigi, if he wanted out, he would have already escaped. What do you mean, Naruto? He asked in a very nonsensical tone. This was a very serious matter after all. Naruto proceeded to tell how Kurama was actually really good friends with his mother, and how his father had unlocked Kurama's cage when he was 5 when they first met. He told him that was where his enhanced senses came from along with sensing emotions, and how he was such a good medic, as Kurama had learned much from Hashirama while inside Mito. When he told him that was who had been doing the majority of his training, and had taught him the shadow clone Hiruzen was almost overwhelmed. So this whole time he has been helping you. Getting a nod, he continued, and now he is going to help you control his chakra. Getting another nod, the old just sighed. Very well, give me a day or two too, and I will summon Wolf for a long-term mission to help train, and check up on your seal. You realize that the council will try to capitalize on this, and remove you from the academy, right? Yes, but all you have to tell them is that my dad said that a seal master would need to check up on it every now and then, and since Jiraiya hasn't been back in a long time, you thought it best that I be taken out of the village in case anything goes wrong. Naruto reasoned. I can't make any guarantees, but I will see what I can come up with. Hiruzen had trying to think up a mission that he could possibly send Wolf on that would not raise suspicions. I'll make a deal with you, Gigi. If you can come up with an idea by tomorrow, I will tell you how my dad was able to beat your most hated enemy, Naruto said while laying the stacks of paper on Hiruzen's desk. Before the old cage could respond, Naruto disappeared in a swirling gust of wind, dissipating the void of Secret's barrier. Sarutobi was stunned. Naruto had left him hanging, and on top of that used a wind element body flicker to leave. He contemplated what happened for a few moments before he dove into finding a mission for Wolf. He would learn the secret of paperwork if it was the last thing he did. Naruto's apartment. Naruto had just set the table when Hinata and Anko arrived. As he was serving, they started to chat idly about their days. Naruto sat down soon after with a somewhat reserved look that got both of their attention shortly. What's the matter with Naruto-kun? Hinata had quit stuttering and seemed a lot more confident. At least in private around people she trusted. When she had learned that Naruto was easily the strongest in the academy including the upperclassmen, she had been amazed. When he told her his reasoning, she completely understood, and he even suggested that she not change her behavior, because it would make them getting on the same team easier. Yeah, why the face? Anko prodded further. Sighing, Naruto said, I don't know an easy way to say this, but I am leaving the village for a short time. Naruto had become quite attached to the both of them, and he and Hinata worried whenever Anko was out on a mission. The two girls just looked on in worry. Why? They both asked at the same time. When he explained Kurama's plan, they were both reluctant to agree, but did so. Little did Hinata know that this could end up being one of the best or worst nights of her life, so far. That brings me to the part that is actually stressing me out a little. They just look at him with confusion before he continues. Anko-chan, I know your curse seal is getting worse, since its containing seal, the evil sealing method that Jiraiya had applied, is breaking down further by the day. I have a stronger seal, but it will take some prep, and the sealing process will be a bit harsh to say the least. I want to do it before I leave because I will be gone for at least 6 months. Anko winced a little, but nodded. If he could help, she would let him try. The only person she trusted more was probably her best friend Kurenai Yuhi. Hinata-chan, there is a problem with your seal, as well. She started to panic before he continued. No, not the fake caged bird seal. It's the chakra seal. It will not last that long, and will hurt immensely if it is not properly removed or replaced with a permanent one that you can activate and deactivate on your own. I also wanted to add in self-adjusting gravity and resistance seals, like mine, that will be operated the same way, since it would only add about 15 minutes to the process. The seals themselves won't cause any pain, but the application might be rather uncomfortable. Hinata just nodded, as Naruto took a deep breath and readied himself. The only real problem for you, Anko-chan, he said turning to her, is that I will need access to your entire back and shoulders. Anko had a faint hint of a blush, but was otherwise unbothered. He has seen her before when he rescued her, but this would be a bit different. Making up her mind, as long as there is no funny business, I think I will be okay with that. Naruto got a little red before turning to Hinata. Yours, Hinata-chan, is a little more in-depth. The chakra seal has to be applied to the main chakra points in the body, including the core. The gravity and resistance seals have to be applied to every major muscle group on the body along all the major joints. This made Hinata turn the color of a tomato. She understood perfectly what he was saying. She would have to be naked for him to apply everything correctly. She knew she liked Naruto, but wasn't sure she would be able to let him see herself like that just yet. While Hinata was thinking, he turned back to Anko. I can do the same seals for you because I don't know how they might interact with your curse seal, and I am not willing to take that chance. Anko just nodded her acceptance. She agreed with him. They went back to eating, but unlike normal, there was no conversation. Hinata was red the entire time, and Anko, truth be told, was a little jealous she couldn't get the seals he had, but that was completely overshadowed by how funny she thought Hinata's situation was. The poor girl might have a lot more confidence than before, but this would really push it. After they finished, Anko was the first to speak, as Naruto picked up while he had a shadow clone doing the dishes. Naruto-kun, when are you planning on leaving? He could hear the worry in her voice, combined with the fact that she used his name meant that she was being serious. Probably late tomorrow night or early the next morning. He replied, a little worried about their reaction. How soon can you put the new seal on? She asked again in a subdued voice. Let me finish cleaning up, then give me 10 minutes to set up my stuff. He replied. She just nodded and went to wait on the couch next to Hinata. The girl was still blushing, but it appeared to have calmed down. What are you going to do? She asked, trying to take the edge of herself. I don't know. What would you do? Hinata asked. I would let him do it. It might be a bit embarrassing, but it could go a long way to making you stronger. Plus, it's not like you don't want him to see you someday. Anko replied with a small perverted grin. Hinata just turned even redder than before while they sat in silence after that. Just before Naruto was set up, Anko decided to tell her one last thing. If it will help, I will be here the entire time. Okay. Hinata just weakly smiled at her and gave a nod. Uncertainty plainly written on her face. Naruto had set up a large scroll and had Anko sit in the center. He made sure all the blinds were closed and curtains drawn so no one could see inside. Anko removed her coat, revealing that she was still wearing her usual outfit. Removing the mesh dress left her in just her mini skirt and panties. Naruto did his best to keep his eyes on his work and a blush off his face. No matter how much he concentrated, he couldn't help but catch glimpses of Anko's full breasts in the window's reflection and marvel at her beauty. It only took him 15 minutes to complete the seal and make sure the ink was dry. Okay, Anko-chan, this is going to hurt quite a bit, but it should feel better afterward. Getting a nod from Anko, seeing her prepare herself, he put his hand over her curse seal and his other in a tiger sign. Permanent evil suppression jutsu. Few and all the lines of the seal started to move towards Anko's curse seal, causing her to grit her teeth. As it started to become even more compressed, Anko was forced to let out a scream. Naruto was doing everything he could to make the process go faster, but he could only do so much. Hinata was cringing seeing what her friend of the last year was having to go through. After 2 minutes, the marks were quite moving. Anko went to stand, but only made it to her knees before she collapsed. Naruto went to catch her, but forgot what she was currently wearing. He ended up with his right hand firmly grasping Anko's left breast, and her right breast being pushed into his arm by her weight. She was very weak to the point of almost passing out, but recovered very quickly when she felt Naruto grab her. Naruto for his part remained oblivious. Trying to get Anko to respond by shaking her, which, again considering where his hand landed, caused Anko to blush, then turn red with anger. You little perverts, what do you think you're doing? Anko asked through gritted teeth. She may have been awake, but that didn't mean she had the strength back in order to support herself. Naruto looked at her confused for a moment until he realized where his hand was. Not wanting to have Anko kill him, he quickly moved his hand to her shoulder and set her down, so she was sitting to grab a blanket for her to cover up with, apologizing the whole time, swearing he just tried to stop her from falling. It's fine, Naruto-kun. You didn't mean to, just help me to the couch. As he did, he could have sworn he heard her say not how I wanted his first feeling to go, but he couldn't be sure because it was too quiet even for his sensitive hearing, and that was saying something. Of course, he may have just been too distracted to hear her right. Hinata meanwhile was completely red. She could see another woman, but seeing Naruto accidentally grab her had her scared the same thing might happen to her. Not that she didn't want that sometime in the future, but she still felt it was too early. After Naruto finished apologizing to Anko for the 100th time, he turned his attention to Hinata. Did you decide on Hinata? You don't have to if you don't want to, but if you don't, I will have to remove the chakra seal. He could see how nervous she was, and decided not to push her. Okay, just let me clean up, then you can help Anko get dressed, and we can get her home. He said, as he turned to start rolling up his scroll. Wait, Hinata called to him, getting his attention. I want the seals to just let me talk to Anko-chan alone for a minute. Hinata then went to the bedroom to give them some privacy. Once the door was closed, she turned to Anko, who just held up her hand to stop her from saying anything. Get my coat. I know what you need. She nodded, and grabbed Anko's coat, and handed it to her. Anko reached into an inner pocket, and pulled out a small flask. See Hinata's questioning look, she explained. It's really strong sake. It would help take the edge off the pain from the curse seal. Just a swig of this, and it should help you not pass out. Anko told her. Arigato, replied Hinata, taking the flask, opening it, and drinking a mouthful down before closing it, and giving it back to Anko, who put it back in her coat. After a few minutes, when the alcohol started to take effect, they called Naruto back in. Naruto was greeted with a shocking sight. Anko was again dressed, and looking like she could at least move on her own, while Hinata was standing in the middle of the scroll wrapped in the blanket that Anko had been using. Her clothes were folded neatly on the arm of the couch. When her eyes met Naruto, he could see they were a little unfocused. He turned to Anko, who put her thumb and pinky out, and put her thumb to her mouth, making it look like she was drinking out of a mug. He just nodded, and went back to preparing his supplies. He would need more ink, and several different size brushes. When he was prepared, he looked Hinata in the eye, and she understood. She removed the blanket and stood there before him, hiding nothing. Face became as red as it ever had while she maintained consciousness. Naruto did his best not to blush and tried to stay professional to make Hinata feel more comfortable. He told her to stand with her feet a little wider than shoulder width and put her arms straight out. Naruto couldn't help but marvel at her figure as he started with her arm. She was not as slender as most girls her age and was starting to develop into a woman. When he got to her chest he noticed her breasts, while not as big as Anko, were well on their way. As he finished the front of her torso he moved to her legs. They were firmly muscled. Not overly large, but still not quite what you would call slender. He drew the chain-like seal all around her legs and proceeded to move behind her. Her backside was just as shapely. Still growing, but far surpassing their classmates, as far as he could tell. He drew the seals up her back and connected them to the rest, forming a circuit. He finished as quickly as he could while still being accurate. When he was done, he took one last look at every inch of the seals and placed his hand at the top of her stomach just below her sternum, where all the seals met, and looked her in the eyes. She just smiled as he held up a hand in a tiger sign and said, "Training Sealere, Fuin." The seals all glowed for a minute, then started to disappear. Hinata couldn't believe she was standing naked in front of the boy she liked. She could feel the heat in her face and could see him blush as well. If it weren't for the sake Anko gave her she would have passed out immediately. He started with her arms, and she could tell he was now intently focused on his work. So focused was he didn't even see her throw a nervous look to Anko when he started tracing the chain-like symbols across her breasts. He then moved to her legs, and she just kept telling herself it was for training. By the time he moved behind her, it surprised her how much calmer she was becoming. She couldn't tell if she was just becoming more okay with it, or if Anko's sake was that good. She felt his brush pass over her inner thighs and butt, and suppressed a shiver. She didn't want him to have to wash a part of it off and start over. She could see Anko was somewhere between amused and surprisingly jealous. He finished up on her back, connecting them back to the ones on her arm. She thought the worst was over until he started going back over it with just his eyes, making sure he didn't make any mistakes. She smiled a little when he came around to face her, and she felt his hand on her stomach. She couldn't help but give a small smile when he activated the seal. The seals all glowed for a minute and then slowly disappeared. Hinata felt a weight that made it harder to stand, but nothing she couldn't live with. He quickly grabbed the blanket and wrapped it around her. She thanked him and went to his room to dress while he cleaned up. As she was getting dressed she noticed that each moment was becoming progressively harder. By the time she was done it seemed like it took all her strength to lift her area to open the door. She slowly swung it open and tried to walk out, but was unable to lift her foot. "Naruto-kun, I can't move," she said with no small amount of fear. "Oops. Looks like the activation process was faster than I thought." Here, he went and picked her up bridal style and carried her to the couch while she blushed the whole way. "Just give it about 15 minutes, and it should reduce itself back down to the point you can move again. It is testing you and seeing what rate it can increase. Once it finds the right settings it will feel difficult to move, but with a little extra effort you will be able to move normally. Once you get to that feeling it will never change. It will always require extra effort to move, as every time your body is strong enough to handle it, it will increase the resistance and gravity." Hinata just nodded at his explanation. About 15 minutes later, just like Naruto had told her, she was able to move again. And just as he had said, she needed to put quite the effort into everything in order to move normally. She got up and walked around his apartment a few times in order to really figure it out. "So, will it always feel like this?" He just nodded. Before she could ask another question, he explained to her how to deactivate the seals by focusing on where he had placed his hand and acting as if she were dispelling a. To reactivate them she would just have to focus chakra to it and it would reactivate on its own. Next came the party was a bit worried about. "I would like both of you to stay here tonight." They both just looked at him. "Hinata-chan, I filled your chakra seal so I could be around the first time you experienced it, injecting chakra back into your system to stretch your coils. It will be painful, and I want to be there to make sure it goes okay." He just got a nod from her. Anko asked why he wanted her to stay. "I want you here to make Hinata-chan feel more comfortable, plus I am going to be leaving tomorrow for 6 months at least. I want to spend as much time as possible with the two who are most dear to me." He flushed a bit as he finished. Anko just nodded, not trusting her voice. After talking for a bit, it got late, and they decided it was time to turn in for the night. He let Anko and Hinata take the bedroom, and he slept on the couch. About 3 hours later he woke up to hearing Hinata grunting in pain, and Anko trying to soothe her. He went in and asked her a few questions on how much pain she was feeling. Noting that it was not out of the ordinary, he told her it sadly would be the same way for about 2 weeks. Every night would get a bit easier until her chakra system was elastic enough that it would only be a mild discomfort she could sleep through easily. He pulled out a tag and made a quick pain-numbing seal that would help and put it on her. She passed out almost immediately after thanking him for it. Naruto told Anko he would make some more, and asked if she would watch over Hinata for a few weeks, until she could sleep again. Anko agreed, and Naruto went back to sleep. The next morning Naruto made breakfast, and left them plates on the table before he went to the Hokage's office. Hokage's office. Hiruzen had come up with a few missions for Wolf. The only problem was that they were true Anbu missions, and he wasn't really sure Naruto could handle them if something went wrong. He couldn't come up with a reason to send one of his personal Anbu on a mission that could be accomplished by a genin team or even a few. He knew Naruto was stronger than he let on. He had killed 3 when he was 10 with what his now top Anbu had called almost surgical precision, and then fled the scene carrying Anko without his best trackers being able to follow. He resolved that Naruto would have to give him a true assessment of his true strength, and if necessary he would test Naruto to make sure it was the truth. His mind made up. He channeled chakra into the seal on his arm to summon Wolf, and in a few seconds, said Anbu appeared in a swirling gust of wind, kneeling like any Anbu would. "Leave us." He seemed to speak to no one, but his guards knew he was talking to them, and promptly vacated their positions, as seemed to be the case every time Wolf and he spoke. They begrudgingly gave Wolf respect. They had never seen him fight, but had been thoroughly impressed with his other abilities. A spy from Iowa had been caught, and tried to kill himself before they could get any information out of him. His suicide attempt was unsuccessful, as they stopped him before he could perform the every Anbu in all the nations knows in order to kill themselves, and destroyed their body. It was however impossible to get anything out of him. Even Inoichi was unable to penetrate the man's incredible mental defenses. It was only the second time he ever failed. They called in Wolf. He appeared in a swirling gust of wind almost immediately after he was summoned. The Hokage told him the situation, what he needed to know, and that the man's life was of no consequence. Wolf simply nodded, and in front of a room full of Anbu, and Inoichi, he quietly walked up to the man, placed a hand on his forehead, and whispered, to the great shock of all, as they heard him, "Human path." None of them had ever heard of such a technique. They then actually saw the man's soul rise out of his body, and looked back at it with a horrified look on his face. The disembodied spirit quickly dissipated, and the heart monitor, and flatlined. Some of the hardened Anbu felt sick, and had a begrudging new respect for Wolf. They may not have known how he did it, but they could all tell it took little to no effort. The small Anbu had then simply sat down in place for 20 minutes before rising, and giving his report. The spy was assessing our strength, and readiness for war. The Tsuchikage still holds a grudge, and is still looking for revenge. With this man's return he would have learned of almost all guard rotations, and main wall defenses. The voice was deeper than expected. He then took out a piece of paper, and wrote 3 names, and handed it to the Hokage. "This is a list of 3 other spies in our village. They most likely have not fled because this man had told them he was leaving before he was caught, and it was kept quiet enough. Is there anything else you require of me?" Telling him now, and that he was dismissed, Wolf had left the same way he came. Even if they felt jealous at the privileges Wolf was allowed, they still felt a little humbled by a man who could get that kind of info out of someone so quickly. The other 3 names indeed turned out to be spies. He may have saved the village from an invasion, and simply disappeared like he always did after his assignments. Wolf please sealed the room. The young Anbu did, as instructed, and nodded to the Hokage when finished. "You may remove your mask." Wolf removed his mask, revealing a smiling blonde boy. "Thanks Chichi, sometimes it gets so stuffy in this thing," Naruto said. They just chuckled at Naruto's demeanor before he put on a serious face. Seeing this, Naruto stood at attention. "Naruto, before you leave I need to ask you a serious question, and I need the whole truth from you with nothing left out. If I think you are still hiding something I will not okay this mission for you, and you will have to remain in the village. Is that understood?" "Hi. Good. Naruto, I want to know your true strength level. No half-truths, and no omissions. The only missions I can give you would be true Anbu missions. Ole, and S-class. I need to know you can survive them in order to let you out of the village." He could hear the worry in his Jiji's voice. Naruto had a quick conversation with Kurama, and decided to tell him everything. "To be completely honest, it says that if you are at the same level you were during his rampage, I have a 50-50 chance of being able to beat you. I am physically stronger and faster with much larger chakra reserves, and for more stamina, but lack the battle experience, techniques, and chakra control that you have." To say he was stunned was an understatement. His jaw was practically on the floor. He was a child barely older than 13 that claimed to be on his level. When Naruto told him about his Dijutsu, he became even more flabbergasted. "What Dijutsu do you have?" "It has many names. Jubigan, Rin Sharingan, but the one I prefer is the Shinomi. It combines all the powers of the Eternal Mangekyou Sharingan and the Rinnegan." Naruto activated his Shinomi. His entire eye turned red with 3 rings surrounding his small black pupil. 3 Tomo on the first 2 rings, and 2 on the outermost ring. Sarutobi had never seen eyes like that, and he would admit that he was slightly unnerved. "I am 1 Tomo away from having them fully evolved, meaning the only ability I can't use is the outer path." "What is that?" It took all Hiruzen had not to let his voice break. He was simply too stunned. The outer path would give me the ability to bring someone back to life and create them a new body. I haven't had much chance to practice the abilities that came with the Mangekyo Sharingan and above because they only came in the last 6 months. And they're too noticeable for me to do in the open. I have instead been practicing chakra control and sub-elements. He went on to tell him that his eyes were the real reason that the Uchihas could not place on him or anybody else for that matter. Hiruzen had to back up to an earlier point he was still stuck on. Sub-elements? He questioned. Mixing two natures to make a new one. Since these eyes give me high-level affinities to all elements including yin, yang, and gravity. So far, I have been able to use 3. Nowhere near a battle-ready state, but I think they will be before I graduate. I can use ice, plasma, and wood. Hiruzen was just holding on now. He had never even heard of plasma. What is plasma? Plasma was something I may have kind of invented when I tried to mix fire and lightning in different ratios until I got a stable mixer. Naruto told him while rubbing the back of his head. Naruto, I want you to keep as much of this as you can a secret. Who else knows? Hinata and Enko know everything I have told you, and they know who my parents are. Hiyashi-sama and Hitomi-sama know who my parents are, and that I am Wolf. Is it everyone? Hi. Very well. I still wish to test your skills to make sure you are at the level you say you are. Meet me at training ground 43 in 30 minutes. Hi. With that, Naruto put his mask back on before disappearing the same way he had arrived after dropping the seals on the room. They called his Anbu back in and told them they were to test Wolf. When they asked why, he told them he would explain when they got to the training ground. He also wanted them to get a dog and meet him at training ground 43 in 30 minutes. Aang all disappeared, going to do the Hokage's bidding while he grabbed his hat and started to walk to the training ground. He used the 30 minutes as an excuse to get away from his paperwork and take a nice stroll through the village. Training ground 43 30 minutes later. The Hokage and the 4 Anbu arrived at training ground 43 to find a wolf already waiting for them. He was dressed like they had always seen him. His mask with a black-headed cloak standing in the center of the training ground. Dog was confused as to what was going on here, but he had been summoned by the Hokage, so he was compelled to come. Or, cat, bird. You will be testing Wolf, who has been going through a new style of training. I wish to assess the effectiveness of it. Hi, Hokage-sama. They all responded. Which of us shall go first? Asked Boar. Boar was a large man well over 6 feet tall. Heavily muscled and wearing standard Anbu gear with a standard tanto strapped to his back. You will all be attacking at the same time. Ninjutsu is allowed, as long as there are no killing strikes. Can we use weapons? Asked Kat. Kat was a medium-height female Anbu with slender build, long purple hair, a C-cup bust hidden beneath her armor, and a long sword strapped to her back. As long as no killing blows are attempted, replied the Hokage. Ninjutsu? The bird asked. Bird was an Uchiha that had been the only senior at the academy that was spared, being of medium build and having a standard Anbu tanto strapped to his back. You're welcome to try. They chuckled, making them a bit wary. The others just looked at each other, and the dog almost panicked. Dog, calm down. I wouldn't have set this up if I wasn't confident in him. Dog did not relax, but had no choice but to remain quiet. He would not be seen questioning the Hokage in front of other ninjas, and Anbu no less. Take your positions. Called out Hiruzen, as the 3 surrounded Wolf in a triangle formation. Hajime. Thanks for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more